Basketball genius, pass master revolutionizes slam dunk universe. Please like, share, and subscribe. Episode 101, Boss. Toku Horita ginseng on it. Xiangyang. Xiangyang. Champion. Champion. Outside the stadium, many Xiangyang fans shouted in unison. Boom. Today is really different. The match in Xiangbei actually has such a fan against the other side. Yohei Mito looked around in surprise. This face is indeed rare for Xiangbei. In all the previous matches in Xiangbei, the fans were one-sided. But today, a large number of Xiangyang fans have emerged. It can be seen that Xiangyang's appeal is strong. And the difference between the fans of the two sides is also obvious. Although the fans in Xiangbei still account for the majority, almost all of them have accumulated quickly in the past month. There is no organization, no slogans, and the like. Xiangyang fans are different, they are all old fans, someone takes the lead, someone organizes. It looks particularly imposing. Bang bang. Several rings instantly attracted everyone's attention. I saw a man banging with 2 water bottles filled with small steel balls. Who will be the winner of this game? After this person shouted, he immediately got a response from all Xiangyang fans. Xiangyang. The sound is huge. Bang bang. A couple of more knocks. So who will be this year's winner? Xiangyang. Xiangyang. This time they shouted louder. In comparison, the fans in Xiangbei even have some timidity in their hearts. This made Mito Yohei particularly unhappy. What's special? The sound is amazing. Takamiya took out our little symbol. Fight with him. Yuji Onen clenched his fists excitedly. Gao Gongwang reached out and took it out. Oops, Sakuragi hasn't lost love lately, and the guys haven't brought it. Mito Yohei shook his head helplessly. Okay, a few of you, those things are useless, next time we also remember to bring small steel balls and water bottles. This time I can only endure it first. As soon as the words fell, a fierce voice sounded from behind them. Why endure, juniors, they win on the field, we can't lose off the field. As soon as Yongping turned around, it was Takuya Horita and a few younger brothers. Who should I be? Didn't you come here today for something, Senior Takuya Horita? The 2 words senior were originally a respectful title, but it could be called out from the corner of Yongping's mouth, which made people feel strange. It's more of a sacrificey, especially for Takuya Horita himself. However, after the last incident that saved the Iron Man, their relationship was one step closer. Yohei, you still call me Ader. This way I'm more comfortable. Then, Takuya Horita sorted out his clothes and said very solemnly, today I came specially to cheer for Xiangbei, and I came prepared. Meeting Yohei's doubtful gaze, Takuya Horita took out a prop from behind him that shocked them. Loudspeaker. Shake. There is actually this. Yongping's eyes shine brightly. Takuya Horita smiled proudly and put the horn to his mouth. All Xiangbei fans listen. The horn sounded so that the people around them couldn't stop covering their ears, and the effect was particularly obvious. In an instant, a few of them became the focus. Takuya Horita exhaled deeply, give me all the momentum. Xiangbei. Xiangbei. Yongping people took the lead to conform. The fans in Xiangbei originally let Xiangyang hold their breath, and under their influence, almost all the Xiangbei fans outside the stadium shouted. Xiangbei. Xiangbei. Full flood. Completely suppressed Xiangyang's side. Xiangbei is the champion. Xiangbei is a hanging army. This much-noted focus battle ignited from the sidelines. Half an hour before the start of the game, spectators rushed in. The Xiangbei side is undoubtedly with a victorious attitude. But judging by the already hoarse voices of Takuya Horita and Yohei, the process was not easy. But it's not just fans of both sides. At this time, at the top of the audience, there were 2 waves of murderous people. It is Lingnan and Hainan. Yusumi and Maki Shin stood opposite each other, and behind them were all the members of their respective teams. The eyes of both sides were full of hostility, filling the surrounding air with pressure. After half a ring, everyone's domineering aura was almost dispersed, and Yusu spoke in a deep voice, AMU, this year will not let you be unscrupulous. Mushini snorted coldly with disdain. Is it up to you? Brag unblushingly. The anger of both sides soared, and even the usually gentle Immortal Dao and Shinsoi Kairo were full of seriousness at this time. The 2 teams passed by with their chests straight. Just when Qing Tian and Ruchuan Qid were staggered, Qing Tian smiled playfully. I heard that you played well today, I'm waiting for you in the final 4. Lu Chuanfeng glanced at him coldly, and lightly spit out 4 words. Nobody. Aoda Nobunaga suddenly grinned angrily, completely ignoring that it was he himself who provoked first. Kid Rukawa. And Shirasawa. I must make you look good. The whole Hainan team did not sit in the audience, but stood in the upper row of passages to watch the game. Today their match will be played at another venue at a later date. The probability is that if you can't finish watching Xiangyang in Xiangbei, you have to go. As for why they didn't go to the arena in advance to prepare for the game, the reason is naturally that it is not needed. A round of 8 match is far from making the King Hainan nervous. Even in the planning of Hainan head coach Gao Toli, the two main players of this quarterfinals Mushini and Ashin will only play symbolically for a few minutes. It is an explanation to the fans who came to support. Hainan is no longer in Kanagawa and needs to prove anything. 16 consecutive titles is enough to go down in history. This year is the last year of his high school career. It is also the best year for Mushin alone, and Hainan sword refers to the 17th championship trophy. Instead of wasting time in the quarterfinals, come here and see the potential opponents in the quarterfinals. Media seats on the sidelines. Because of the focus topics of Xiangbei and Xiangyang, today's media seats have added an extra row. Even so, it was still packed. Yayoi Ida also appeared in the Shonan North competition for a long time. Compared to other media, Basketball Weekly is the only one who wants Xiangyang to win. However, what made Yayoi Ida pay more attention was Lingnan. At this time, she had just arrived from the arena in Lingnan, and her notebook was full of writing. 0.4 Lingnan and Xiandao are her personal complexes, but the 3 words of Luchuan Feng are definitely indispensable in the message of today's Lingnan competition. When Yayoi Ida chewed on the word Bunju, she never imagined that everything she did was paving the way for her old rival Sanai. Just yesterday, Sanai and Rukawa Kid officially completed the contract. The process was very pleasant, and Rukawa Kid was extremely satisfied with the future arrangements. It's just that I am a little sad about the name of the second agent to own. Second. It makes him feel like he is behind Shirazika everywhere. Afterwards, Sanai's first task was to break out. This is exactly what Rukawa Kid wishes. The 46 points in the first game were his answers. This made Sanai, who was sitting in the audience at this time, deeply gratified. The next goal is already being pondered. Of course, by no means a nameless person. Episode 102, The Flame Man's Special Trial Ground. Xiangbei Dressing Room. At this time, the atmosphere in the dressing room was more depressing than before. Especially Takashi Akagi. As early as a few days ago, he had a feeling of gain and loss. Now that the game is imminent, the mental tension is even higher. So much so that he didn't sleep well last night. Gorilla, I didn't expect you to see dark circles on your dark face. Sakuragi Hanamichi smiled wickedly in front of him. Akagi Takashi frowned and twisted his face to the side. This time, he didn't show his iron fist, which surprised Sakuragi Hanamichi. Brother Cobra, what's wrong with the gorilla? It's very perverse today. Mu Twilight smiled and said, Akagi is a little too nervous, after all, we are going to fight Xiangyang. This is something that I couldn't have imagined in the first 2 years. Now that Xiangyang has become the first level of the true meaning on our way forward in Xiangbei, Akagi's heart must be complicated. After speaking, Mu Twilight pushed his glasses and straightened up. So Sakuragi, you must play well today, we must defeat Xiangyang. Sakuragi smiled confidently, revealing 2 rows of white teeth. Of course, brother Glasses, leave it to my genius Sakuragi. And I have 26 reasons to win. As soon as he finished speaking, Sakuragi's heart was beating, like a deer smashing inside. His reason, of course, means the leaf. But at this time, Sakuragi was also a little apprehensive. Because there is also a competition in Wuyuan today, the opponent is Hainan. And the timing of the 2 games overlaps. Sakuragi was worried about where the leaves of the leaves were going. In case of she's going to that. It means that there is no longer a possibility between the 2. So it's not just Takashi Akagi who suffers from gains and losses. It's just that what Akagi thinks is still unknown, and the result will not be known until the match is over. And Iku had already arrived at the scene early. Her heart had already settled down, and she was only cheering for Sakuragi Hanamichi alone. A radio rang out on the pitch. The doors to the players' tunnel slammed open. Takashi Akagi held his head high and appeared with the whole team. Xiangbei. Xiangbei. Takuo Horita took a loudspeaker as an atmosphere MC. The already somewhat hoarse voice shouted out with a unique appeal. This kind of uniqueness is called hard work. Xiangbei. Xiangbei. All the Xiangbei fans in the audience shouted in unison, and the momentum was shocking. Meanwhile, On the other side, the door of the player's tunnel is open. Kenji Fujima led Shoyo inside. Fujima's jersey is draped over a black training uniform, which represents a switch between player and coach status. This coat is certainly not redundant, playing on the field sweaty, returning to the field to sit, and the body will gradually cool. When you play again, your form will be greatly affected. The coat is an important item for him to keep his body hot. It can be seen that Fujima's part-time job is not easy. Not only to arrange the team, but also to arrange yourself in case of emergency. On the field, Fujima took the lead and walked at the front of the team. It was the opposite of the battle in northern Xiong. The most majestic Akagi on this side of Xiangbei takes the lead, giving people a shock from the facade. And Fujizhen is the shortest one in the entire Shenyang. Behind him was a tall man in the water. But even so, there is no sense of discord. Because the vine really has a strong aura. Shenyang fans also shouted at the right time, slapped the water bottle hard, and fought to the death with Takeo Horita. Coach, Shenyang is really a big player this year. Exactly the same as I investigated. This is really the first time this lineup has been met. Ida Hikoichi sighed. Shigeru Tauka nodded. That's right, Shenyang was obsessed with this matter 2 years ago. Their former coach always believed that basketball is an inch long and an inch stronger, so they went around recruiting big players in all positions and wanted to make a difference in the overall height. This year, I think it is already a grinding type, and with Kaidojin's words, Xiangbei will have big trouble. Speaking of this, Shigechi Tauka seemed to suddenly remember something, and quickly turned back to check it. His gaze swept over each team member until he saw Sendo and Rukawa keyed. You too. Today is still a look, Xiangbei and Xiangyang will have a team that is our opponent in the Final Four, and no one is allowed to leave today. Lu Chuanfeng's face was frosty, and he didn't say a word. Immortal Dao squeezed out a smirk, we've never walked. Tauka Shigeru opened his mouth, and finally sighed helplessly, these two great gods really gave him a headache. But it's so fragrant. Both teams returned to the bench. Coach Anze and part-time coach Fujima made the final deployments, respectively. Height is Xiangyang's strength, we have to be careful when passing the ball, and we also have to pay attention when receiving the ball. We're more mobile than them, so you'll have to run more than usual. Akagi, Sakuragi, the basket will be handed over to you, control the rebound. Akagi nodded firmly, and Sakuragi Hanamichi smiled confidently. Don't worry, Dad, I'm Kanagawa's rebounding king. Coach Anze nodded and continued, Miyagi, try to raise the speed and play to your strengths. Mitsui should borrow more cover to create more shooting space for yourself, and you have to pay attention to maintaining physical fitness. Miyagi extended his thumb. At its best. But Mitsui didn't seem to hear it, and the whole person was in a state of wandering. It was only then that the teammates discovered that something was wrong with Mitsui. 533, Bai Ze's eyes flashed, and he naturally understood what was going on in Mitsui's mind. The national MVP is too nervous. This game is different from the previous ones, where the teams basically lost before they even played. Xiangyang is truly competitive, and it is Mitsui's first tough battle in 3 years. Mitsui, who had been fighting for a long time, inevitably beat a drum in his heart. It wasn't until Miyagi stabbed him that Mitsui regained his attention. Ah, yes. I have no problem. Coach Anze nodded meaningfully. Mitsui's state of mind was also expected by him, but he didn't say anything. Because he believes that Mitsui will definitely adjust his state. This battle may be a test for Mitsui. Finally, Coach Anze pointed out Bai Ze's name. Xiaobai, the on-the-spot command will be handed over to you, and win the victory. The last 4 words, Coach Anze said it with great certainty. Bai Ze replied confidently, of course. Takashi Akagi led his teammates in a circle, a large hand stretched out in the middle. The teammates all hitched a ride. Xiangbei. Akagi's roar resounded with thunder. The teammates were surging in their hearts and shouting in unison. Come on. The referee whistled on the field, and Akagi stepped into the quarterfinals with the Problem Children's Legion. Episode 103, First to break the game. Gouge the defender. The first starts of both sides walk into the venue. The audience erupted into enthusiastic cheers. But then everyone discovered a problem. Kenji Fujima actually sat on the bench. On Shoyo are Hanagata, Hasegawa, Nagano, Takano, and Ito. Fujima didn't start. Xiangyang is too proud. Ida shouted in disbelief. Everyone knows whether Xiangyang has Vine or not, these are really 2 completely different teams. There is one less Fujizhen, and it is not an exaggeration to say that it is Xiangyang's second formation on the field. Yuji was also surprised, Xiangbei's strength was obvious to all, and Fujizhen's approach was a little bigger. including Shigechi Tauka, who was also the head coach, also did not understand. This is especially true on the bench in northern Xiangbei. Hanagata on the field smiled slightly when she saw everyone's reaction. It was he who first proposed Jin Fujimasaku to watch on the wall. Because he is full of confidence in this year's team, although Xiangbei is strong, he believes that it is not yet to the point of forcing Fujizan. The Mushin 18 finals in Hainan is likely to be not. We Xiangyang can't fall this either. Fujima, as the head coach, will not let him come around, and the reason why he can agree also has his own reasons. It's deterrence. This is one of the layouts of his identity as a coach. After all, Xiangbei has no experience in the competition, and he will definitely be nervous in the face of Xiangyang. If the two sides start the game a little scorching, then the meaning of his sitting on the bench comes out. Xiangbei will be disturbed because the opponent's general has not yet appeared. Mindset will directly affect performance. And he also believes that this lineup led by Hanagata has this ability. 10,000 steps back, even if the plan fails, Fujima believes that he can turn the tide of the war. Fujima's decision, at least so far, has been smooth. Because the captain of Xiangbei, Takashi Akagi, has planted a seed in his heart. His attention had been distracted by Fujima. Bai Ze, on the other hand, glanced at Fujima playfully. In 2 minutes, you'll be on the line. Honk. The referee whistled and threw the ball into the air. Takashi Akagi and Hanagata are waiting to fight for the kickoff. When the basketball flies to the highest point, the flower shape stands up. Takashi Akagi was noticeably slower by half a beat. Syllable. The corner of Hanagata's mouth showed a hint of pride, and successfully returned the racket to the backfield. Akagi. Twilight said worriedly. Xiangyang defender Ito receives the ball at the back. Akagi whispered, beckoning everyone to return to defense. After the failure of the jumping ball, Akagi's whole momentum also dropped a lot. This is even noticed by Yusumi. What is Akagi doing? It's better to sit off the field in this state. Vane is my biggest opponent. As soon as the words fell, Yunichi next to him shouted. Bai Ze took the initiative to attack. Akagi and the others returned to defense, but Bai Ze did not. At the same time that Ito received the ball, Shirasawa rushed up. Directly in the front court against Ito, to be strict. This instantaneous change caught Ito off guard. Shirasawa's 2 long arms wrapped Ito like vines, and without waiting for Ito to react, he cut the ball off. People also wiped Ito. Grab the ball and go straight to the empty paint area. After crossing the free throw line, the sky is set on fire, and the one-armed tomahawk smashes the ball into the basket. Bang! In just 5 seconds before and after, Xiangbei changed from passive to active. No one expected Bai Ze to come up like this. Full fire at the beginning. This buckle made the fans' blood boil and was completely ignited. The hanging hearts also sank. Xiangyang is strong, but we have Bai Ze. At the same time, it also made the hearts of the generals in northern Xiangbei much more stable, especially Takashi Akagi. After grabbing the opportunity, he exhaled in a relaxed breath. Luckily, we have this guy here. In the audience, Hikoichi Ida exclaimed excitedly. Bai Ze's fighting spirit is high. Come up and erupt. Xiangyang can't stop him. Shigechi Tauka calmly analyzed. Scoring the first goal means a lot to Xiangbei, the mentality should be eased. Bai Ze is not simple, he is mobilizing the whole team in an extreme way. On the field, Ito raised his hand reproachfully, this ball was indeed his responsibility. But at the moment just now, he really couldn't help, and Bai Ze even made him breathless. Hanagata patted him comfortingly. It's okay, concede a goal and just cheer up. Xiangyang bottom line serve. After Shirasawa retreated to the middle line. Because of the height, Xiangyang can't play speed as a whole, and they can only play their advantage if they fall into the position. Ito slowly advanced with the ball in hand, giving his teammates time to fall into position. Just after Ito crossed the middle line, Bai Ze rushed up again. In Ito's eyes, Bai Ze is like a vicious tiger, rushing towards him with his fangs bared, and his momentum is terrifying. Bai Ze, is this crazy? Also engaged in raids. Yusumi's face was full of surprise. It's hard to say that Bai Ze is crazy or not, but Ito is really panicked. Subconsciously took half a step back, and the nearest Hasegawa shouted, it's time to return to the line. Ito's heart tightened, and Shirasawa was already in front of him. In a hurry, he passed the ball to Hasegawa. Even though he turned up the arc, he still underestimated Bai Ze's bouncing speed. Bai Ze stabbed obliquely and jumped up, and cut off the ball like a moon. The bench on the sidelines of Xiangbei suddenly shouted. Nice little white job. One more goal. Come on. After Bai Ze landed, he directly connected a turn and cleaned Ito. Rush to the basket again. This time, the sprint distance was enough, and Bai Ze entered the paint area and threw the whole person into the air. Draw a circle with both hands, and the big windmill dunk is here again. One ball into the soul, the momentum is like a rainbow. Two steals in succession, two violent dunks, let the scene completely fall into madness. Xiangyang didn't even touch the ball except Ito, as if he hadn't participated in the game. Bai Ze landed on the ground, opened his hands, and rose, inciting the emotions of the fans. Xiangbei. Xiangbei. Bai Ze. Shirasawa. One shout after another. The substitutes on the bench shouted excitedly, and Coach Anze also raised his eyes and said happily. Nice job. 4-0. The opening is less than 20 seconds. Ito gave out 2 assists in a row, but unfortunately it was for the opponent. Everyone thought that Xiangbei would break the game, but no one expected Xiangbei to be in this way. Let Bai Ze smash the point guard out of a hole. Fujima still sat steadily, without calling a pause or substitution. Once or even twice, it can be defined as coincidence and carelessness. After all, Bai Ze is all raids. But raids come and go, and they can't be repeated. He decided to give Ito one last chance. Bai Ze returned to the back court amid cheers and gave his teammates high fives. Takashi Akaji smiled, looking like his state had recovered. Hit pretty little white. Bai Ze's eyes were sharp. It's not enough. Episode 104, this is not a robbery, it is a robbery. Xiangyang sent another bottom-line ball. Bai Ze immediately commanded, Miyagi Mitsui follow me, so that their big man can't dribble the ball. The two were startled, and then nodded knowingly. Understood Bai Ze's intentions. The raid will continue. The ball had already reached Ito's hand. Xiangyang's 4 big men are definitely not very suitable for the job of dribbling and propulsion. Ito receives the ball and observes the situation. I saw that the third line on the north side of Xiangbei was coming down quickly. Shirasawa rushed over first, and Miyagi and Mitsui were divided into left and right wings to find someone. The biggest weakness of this Xiangyang happens to be the strongest point in Xiangbei, which is the gap in point guard. Mushini sighed. It is estimated that Fujijin did not expect that Bai Ze could be strong enough to burst Ito. This round will determine Fujima's movements. Ito saw that Shirasawa was about to rush in front of him and hurriedly passed the ball out. Hasegawa received the ball, and Mitsui immediately stepped forward to press it. The ball is again high profile to Nagano. Nagano was crossed by a Miyagi in front of him, and the height difference between the two people was more than 20 centimeters, and Nagano would never dare to get off the ball easily. However, he held the basketball high, and Miyagi definitely couldn't reach one tall and one short, temporarily forming anxiety. However, the offensive time is consumed little by little, and it is expected to take 8 seconds to violate. Hasegawa 637 saw the situation and threw Mitsui forward to ask for the ball. Nagano raised it high and returned the ball to Hasegawa, who was running. At this point, Xiangyang finally passed the midfield. However, Ito, who followed him, shouted, "Watch out for the back." Hasegawa swept away, and Shirasawa and Mitsui had already swapped places and were attacking him. Hasegawa hurriedly closed the ball and did not give Shirasawa a chance to press. But Bai Ze is completely confused. Come and grab the basketball in his hand directly. Fast and accurate. In less than a second, poof. Take the ball down. Hasegawa was completely stunned. I've never seen such a robbery, this is a robbery. That strength and momentum made him not even resist. The bench in Xiangbei jumped up excitedly. This steal is simply infuriating. That feeling is no less than a brutal cap. Regaining possession, Shirasawa swung away from Ito. That explosive power made Ito's eyes even have Bai Ze's phantom. Looking back in amazement, Bai Ze had already rushed to the forbidden area and jumped high. The ball is flattened in the right hand, and the whole person flies towards the basket. Rumble. Tomahawk dunk. World shaking. The whole arena was going to be overturned by the noise. Bull batch. Too bullish to approve Bai Ze. 3 steals in a row and 3 dunks. Bai Ze alone collapsed Xiangyang. It's terrifying. I've never seen such an exaggerated style of play. Bai Ze's 3 consecutive assaults made Xiangbei completely up. Everyone cheered on the field, as if to tell everyone that Xiangbei was coming. It's so strong. It's really too strong. Xiangyang has already been blasted by Bai Ze. It's only a few tens of seconds. Ida Hiko's eyes lit up, and his excitement was absolutely heartfelt. The most intuitive impression of Bai Ze is the Lingnan defender planting grass. He had personally felt the horror of being singled out by Bai Ze. It's not that I underestimate Ito, he really doesn't look enough in front of Bai Ze, so Xiangyang will collapse directly. At this time, the players of Xiangyang on the field were completely passive and looked extremely lonely. This opening is arguably the darkest moment they have experienced in their careers. Hua Shape's eyes flashed to look at Bai Ze, and he had to admit that Bai Ze slapped his face fiercely with strength. It's not that he can't do it, it's that he can't even touch the ball. Ito, the backup point guard, became the biggest variable on the court. Honk. The referee blew the whistle. Fujima got up from the bench and called the first time out of the game. The black coat had been taken off, and he was ready to put it on the stool. Apparently he didn't want things to go any further. 3 consecutive mistakes. Fujijin could not sit still. Bai Ze glanced over and smiled with satisfaction. It seems to be a little faster than the expected 2 minutes. The Xiangyang team member sat on the bench in annoyance. Ito's whole person was flustered, and the culprit of this situation was himself. But I really can't blame him, after all, he is just a backup point guard. The opponent is also too exaggerated. Fujima clapped his hands calmly. What's wrong? But it's just beginning, is there no momentum? We're going to win the championship this year. And this situation is not up to you, it was my negligence as a coach, and now I will make up for it myself. Hearing this, Hanagata and the others raised their heads once, as if they recovered in an instant. In their hearts, Fuji really plays to represent the second team to the first team, just like they have just debuted and regained a new life. Fujima, I'm sorry. Hanagata bowed her head reproachfully. Anyway, his vice-captain really didn't play a role on the field. Fujima shook his head. I said it's my problem, take out the state, and the real Xiangyang starts now. Ito, don't worry too much, Shirasawa is a top player. Whether it was to comfort Ito or his sincere feelings. This was the first time he openly recognized Bai Ze's strength. The last person to be recognized by Fujima was Mushinichi. After a timeout, both sides returned to the pitch. In less than 1 minute, the appearance of Xiangbei has changed dramatically. It basically goes back to the game itself. Not surprisingly, Fujima also appeared on the scene. A design made by Ze called back the prototype in 1 minute. Fujijin was telling the truth, and this decision was his mistake. Shinsoikairo smiled and said, Fujima had to come out, AMU, it seems that Bai Ze is a player of the same level as you. Mushini smiled faintly. So what, I just believe that the winner is king. The fans of Xiangyang in the audience were shouting wildly. The decline just now was swept away, and Fuji was really their greatest confidence. Fujima received the bottom line, and Bai Ze still led the whole game, without changing. He wanted to try it and see if the vine really turned out. Fujima also guessed his intentions and focused his attention. Bai Ze is up and on again. I don't know if Fuji can really survive Bai Ze's level. Don't put too much pressure on Bai Ze, the other party is also a top point guard, and it's okay to force Fuji out in the first 1 minute. In the midst of the audience's discussion, Shirasawa and Fujima had already faced each other in the front court. Fujijin skillfully dribbled the ball, and Bai Ze did not rush to press, blocking the path with his body in front of him. This ball will never be passed, nor will it be called cover. Otherwise, even if it passes, the format of the game is completely reversed. So, Fujima suddenly started, extremely fast, and directly rushed to Bai Ze's right side. This is Fujima's biggest advantage, left-handed. This is completely contrary to the physical habits of a normal right-handed general. The defensive player will be completely uncomfortable with the other side of the action. Even Bai Ze is no exception. Physical habits are not something that can be changed right away. Coupled with Fuji's top speed and technology, Bai Ze could not directly intercept him. Fujijin was also quite surprised, it was rare for a right hand to be able to defend himself like this. No wonder Ito was beaten up. Under Fujijin's control, Xiangyang finally pushed to the front court smoothly for the first time. Episode 105, Signature Action. The Battle of the Three Centers. Fujijin lucked through the front court, which can be regarded as a complete solution to Xiangyang's crisis. The players showed their confidence and their condition improved significantly. The real Xiangyang is here, come on, Problem Children's Legion. Twilight clenched her fists, nervously. Fujima distributes the ball to Nagano while running with Shirasawa, without the ball. It became a containment for Bai Ze. Nagano faces Miyagi, and as long as he doesn't dribble, Miyagi has no pressure on him. An easy pass hoisted the ball into the inside. Miyagi can only curse in his heart about this, and there is no way. Snapping, Hanagata jumped up to receive the ball and finally got the first offensive meeting. He was already impatient in his heart, and his desire to attack was extremely strong. Turn your back to Takashi Akagi. Both are the same height, but Akagi is stronger. A large hand pressed against the back of the flower, not giving him any chance to attack the frame. Two people looking at the mountain is black and hard and white and soft. The flower shape dropped the ball, and the raw resistance took a step, and Takashi Akagi struggled to block it, standing still. Then he saw Hanagata suddenly turn around and jump directly in front of Akagi. It's time to shoot. Akagi frowned and became indignant. The timing of the jump is just right, and Akagi also has the advantage in terms of bounce speed. The bench on the sidelines of Xiangbei has even stood up, ready to celebrate the next gorilla hot pot. However, in Akagi Goken's eyes, the distance between Hanagata seems to be getting farther and farther away from him. Akagi's sealed hand suddenly fell, and it was slapped into the air. Hanagata leaned back after leaving the ground, until the center of gravity reached the limit, and then threw the basketball. This is the signature move of the flower shape, the backward jumper. The backward jumper is an extremely difficult move to guard against. Avoid blocks by leaning back and turning up the shot arc. However, it is not so simple to use, and requires extremely strong core strength and body balance. Under this premise, it is also necessary to have a soft feel. And the back of the flower shape is almost extreme in terms of timing and control of body balance. Coupled with his height of nearly 2 meters, his back can be said to be impeccable. This is the killing move that Hanagata relies on to survive. Takashi Akagi watched as the ball streaked over him. Swish. Hollow into the net. The flower shape lands steadily. 6-2. Break the deadlock for Xiangyang. Akagi Takashi frowned. He really tried his best just now, but that shot couldn't be sealed. And Hanagata smiled slightly and put on a relaxed face. In the first match between the two team centers, Akagi was undoubtedly the losing side. Offensive and defensive conversion. It was Fujima's turn to face Shirasawa. Although Fujima is not tall enough, he has good speed and judgment. This can be clearly felt by Bai Ze during the dribbling process, especially his ghostly left hand. It's always overwhelming. Truth be told, if Fuji were a right-hander, he might still be a top player, but it would never be where he is now. But the left hand is part of his strength, and there is no doubt about it. Although there was some pressure, it was not enough to cause Bai Ze too much trouble. Bai Ze held the ball at the top of the arc to observe the running position of his teammates. Xiangyang put on a simple person staring at people. But because of the advantage of height and arm length, the defensive intensity is particularly different. Even if you are one step behind, the long arm can interfere with the ball. Usually, the shooting space may require 1 step distance, and facing Xiangyang will become 2 steps. It's like a big hood, covering everyone in Xiangbei tightly. In this case, Bai Ze's passing difficulty became much higher. The ball can be well passed, but teammates don't necessarily take advantage of fleeting scoring opportunities. Therefore, Bai Ze decided to be reckless. Give your teammates a chance. Snap. Bai Ze dribbled continuously behind his back, seeing the opportunity to directly possess and accelerate the start. The best way to deal with Fujima is to simplify the complex and attack the body. Scold. Bai Ze wiped Fujigen, and the moment his body touched, Fujigen lost his resistance. The two people have a huge gap in physical strength. Killed in the paint area, Takano and Nagano assisted in defense. The two were like a mountain about to merge, blocking the front 180 degrees. There is also Fujima behind him, who is waiting for the opportunity. Seeing this, Bai Ze took a step and got up directly, and threw the ball out of his head at an extremely fast speed. Not only fast, but also extremely high curvature. There is still a big distance between the jumping high field and the basketball. Swish. The basketball fell almost vertically into the basket. If you want to say that the back of the flower shape can't be prevented, Bai Ze's throw can't be prevented. Bai Ze's offensive means are really rich. It seems that Xiangyang can't prevent him. Immortal Dao smiled and appreciated. Lu Tuanfeng on the side nodded indifferently, as if he was very approving. This made Immortal Dao a little surprised. Hey. It's a little bit like you today. Lu Tuanfeng spit out 2 words, coldly. Watch the ball. Exchange of offensive powers. After several transfers, Xiangyang was hoisted again to the inner line flower shape. Fujima has no intention of making a move so far. The reason is because the flower shape is in good condition. This also allowed him to leave enough strength to consume with Bai Ze. Hanagata and Takashi Akagi resonate and the battle begins. Shigechi Tauka couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The 3 strongest centers in the prefecture should be Yusumi, Hanagata, and Akagi. And Hanagata's style is completely different from the other two. If Akaji can't take him, I'm afraid it will be difficult for Yusumi to restrict him. Hanagata, have you already surpassed them? Back on the field, Hanagata still faces Akaji with his back to him. After the previous failure, Akaji was more cautious this time. I have enough strength in my body and am ready to strike at any time. Akaji is like a burning flame, while Hanagata is calm as water. Not in a hurry, his back waited for the opportunity. This time, the flower shape did not fight in the upper body, but suddenly twisted his body and suddenly turned around. Turn around and back and jump shot. This shot caught Akaji off guard and immediately got up and sealed. In order to cover the flower-shaped shot, Akaji's whole body leaned forward as hard as possible. The two people went one forward and one backward, and when they were about to form an overlap, Hanagata threw the ball out. The next moment, Akaji's body collided. Bang, the two touched together, both trying to control the center of gravity of the body. At the same time, the referee also blew the whistle. No doubt, it must have been Akaji's defensive foul. Hanagata landed on the ground and took 2 steps back to be held up by his teammates. Takashi Akaji relied on the weight advantage to land steadily, and hurriedly looked back at the basket. The basketball was right in his line of sight across the net. Xiangbei number 4. Defensive fouls. Score a goal, add a penalty. With the referee's decision, the flower shape successfully hooked the corner of his mouth. In the confrontation between the two, he has completely gained the upper hand. And Akaji looks powerless. Give me the ball as much as you can, we'll get the score back. Hanagata arrogantly greets his teammates. Akaji Gangxian frowned. How could he not have imagined that he had actually become the biggest loophole worker in Xiangbei? Episode 106, Reckless. Reckless until you obey. Gorilla. Why don't you teach this spectacled one a good lesson? He looks weak. Sakuragi Hanamichi crossed her waist in displeasure. At this moment, Hanagata was on the free throw line, and Sakuragi's words did not hide any meaning. Hanagata snorted coldly in disdain, patting the ball to adjust her breathing. Takashi Akaji ignored him and bent over to prepare for the rebound. This made Sakuragi a little angry. Relying on people is better than relying on himself, and he kept drawing circles with his hands. Sure enough, it depends on me as a genius. Cast can't enter, draw a circle and curse you. Swish. Hanagata scored and added penalties. Sakuragi Hanamichi broke the gong. The substitutes off the field were also worried about Captain Akaji's situation. The captain doesn't seem to be able to limit that flower shape, and he scored 5 points in 2 rounds. It's true, but the only one who can compete with the flower shape in height is the captain, and the captain must be under a lot of pressure. It's the first time I've seen the captain feel powerless. As he spoke, a folding fan fell down. Kaiser Willow's eyebrows frowned slightly. You guys don't look popular. It's just been 2 rounds, and Captain Akaji will definitely have a way. Twilight looked at the field and said with conviction, that's right, we have to trust Akaji, because no one wants to win more than him. There is no center stronger than him. This sentence Mu Twilight said with great certainty. The two have played together since their middle school days, and Akaji's dedication to basketball and desire to win is the best known to Twilight. Especially after arriving in Xiangbei, teammates won weekly and people were uneven. But that didn't stop Akaji's desire for victory, and he dragged the team to the present. In Twilight's heart, Akaji is the strongest. This strength is not only the ball skill, but also Akaji's strong desire to win. This is Akaji's long-awaited opportunity, and it is also the last chance of his high school career. He won't miss it. I trust him. The on-field attack and defense continue. Fujima also fulfills his coaching responsibilities on the field, taking care of playing while looking at the overall situation. In retreat, he signaled his teammates to continue expanding their defense. Don't give other people in Xiangbei a chance. So far, all 8 points in Xiangbei have come from Bai Ze alone. Fujima believes that one person is not enough to decide the game. The strength of Xiangbei lies in the full blossom. Once it is smooth, under the leadership of Bai Ze, Xiangbei's attack will pour like a wave, so in any case, Fuji really has to limit this point. You Bai Ze can kill, come and kill. Compared to 10,000 arrows through the heart, I don't believe you can stab me to death one by one. 8-4. Bai Ze advanced with the ball, and Xiangyang's defensive range expanded compared to just now. Bai Ze immediately understood the true intention of the vine. Cut off the connection between him and his teammates. But this is exactly what Bai Ze meant. Keep up the recklessness. Reckless until you obey, reckless until the situation opens. Bai Ze changed direction drastically forward, carrying Fujijin to kill inside. When you get to the paint area, you suddenly get up, ride a horse and shoot arrows, and get 2 more points. No, although Fujijin solved Xiangyang's offensive problem, he couldn't limit Yuza on the defensive end. Shinsoikairo shook his head. Kyoto Nobunaga pouted. Cut, whatever, if it's me, Fujima can't be prevented. Looking at the proud Kyoto, Mushini gave a no. Fuji's defense is not as fragile as it seems. It's not so much to say that Bai Ze's attack ability is too strong. Kyoto, you can't do it yet. Shinzonga Kairo smiled meaningfully. AMU, if it were you, could you prevent Bai Ze? As soon as the shepherd showed his fighting intent. I'm looking forward to it. Xiangyang attacked and continued to transfer the ball to the flower-shaped hand. It's a flower shape again. Xiangbei bench all pinched a cold sweat. At this time, Takashi Akaji's face was already covered with sweat. After facing the flower shape for 2 rounds, there is already an invisible psychological gap. For the 3rd time, he vowed to defend himself against it this time. Hanagata was still on his back, his shoulders swaying from side to side, and Akaji was preoccupied, not missing a single detail. On the other hand, Nagano used cover to shake off the cherry blossom Ichi and ran towards Hanagata. When the 2 bodies staggered, Akaji couldn't see the position of the ball at all, and saw Hanagata suddenly turn around and make a shooting motion, and Akaji Takashi jumped up reflexively. Only then did he see clearly that there was nothing on Hanagata's hand. And the ball is in Nagano's hands. Akaji didn't have time to react anymore. Sakuragi Hanamichi jumped up, but it was too late. Nagano made a small snap and quickly scored the ball. In the audience, Hikoichi Ida smacked his lips suspiciously. Why didn't Hanagata hit directly this time? He feels so good. Shigechi Tauka gave the coaching method in a timely manner. This is Xiangyang's strategy. They want to blossom more on the offensive end to save physical energy, while locking up the connection between Bai Ze and his teammates on their strongest defensive end. Let Bai Ze fight against a team alone to consume him. Reasonable, Bai Ze can't keep it in shape all the time. As soon as the words fell, Sandao continued, I think it may be possible if it is his words. Rukawa Kid added resolutely, of course. The 2 of them sang one and made Shigechi Tauka a little unable to get off the stage. You 2 seem to be talking a lot today. Immortal Dao people and animals smiled harmlessly, and looked at Luchuan Feng. Yes, you seem to have a lot of words today. The flowing river maple face has no waves. Watch the ball. The confrontation on the field continues to heat up. On the Xiangbei side, Bai Ze turned the tide. Xiangyang also does not pinch the attack, at most to the inner line of Gaoya or Hanagata, to make up for it. Bai Ze was unafraid, throwing shots, layups, emergency stop jumpers, and scored the ball one at a time. Completely transformed into a big killer. The blood of the audience was boiling. This was the first time they had seen Bai Ze so open on the playing field. Individual heroism is interpreted to the extreme. Xiangyang's side is more blossoming, relying on the height advantage to concentrate firepower points on the inside. Takashi Akaji was completely led by the nose of Hanagata, leaving only Sakuragi alone in the barrier of the inner line of northern Shonan. And Xiangyang can hit the inside line except for the Vine 1.7 truth. Rao is that Mitsui and Miyagi are tired enough, and they have not caused them any trouble in the absolute difference in height. Bai Ze kept staring at Fujima. The 2 coincided. One is, I don't believe you alone can beat us to death. The other is that I don't believe those few bids can kill us. 22-18. Bai Ze alone scored all 22 points, leaving Xiangbei always on the active side. Xiangyang attacked the inside line again. Hanagata is tempted to face the threat of Akajimi. Takashi Akaji's gaze was like a torch. He saw all of Bai Ze's performances. If it weren't for Bai Ze's support, there would be a high probability of pronounced Xiangbei's death now. 3 years. No, not just 3 years. This is my opportunity that I have been waiting for. How can I ruin it with my own hands? Good work, Xiaobai. Episode 107, Chemical Reactions. Never a one-man battle. Akaji is awake. Mu Twilight suddenly straightened up excitedly. Again, no one knows Akaji better than he does. The change can be seen in one movement or demeanor. The eyes of the entire bench were all locked on Akaji, and I saw Akaji take a deep breath and open his arms to lower his center of gravity. The action has returned to the same wide opening and closing as before. Come on, Hanagata. I don't always let our new people take care of them. Takashi Akaji's fighting intent instantly dispersed. From beginning to end, his state has been constantly up and down. From the tightness when he first came on the field to the relaxation after Bai Ze won the first place. And then to the rush of being pressed and beaten by the flower shape. Akaji's slump also directly affected the state of the team. Xiangbei completely relied on Bai Ze's ball by ball dragging forward. Just like he was a year ago. That feeling was best known only to Akaji. After waiting for so many years, he finally waited for a strong teammate, and Akaji must not be the one who dragged his feet. You can't ruin your dreams with your own hands. At this moment, 26 minutes into the game, Akaji finally found himself. Hanagata smiled, obviously feeling that Akaji was just holding on. Even if Akaji is at his best, Hanagata has the confidence to hit him. In an instant, Hanagata withdrew her tentative feet and rose to the ground. Another backup jumper. Xiangbei shouted nervously from the bench. Mu Twilight clenched his hands into fists, his eyes tough. Akaji. Takashi Akaji roared on the field. This long-lost roar he has been holding until now. Akaji jumped up, but his goal this time was not to block the basketball. Just when Hanagata was about to make a confident move, Akaji's big hand appeared in front of him. One hand completely obscures the flower-shaped view. The line of sight was suddenly blocked, which couldn't help but make Hanagata feel a panic, followed by the deviation of the shot. Takashi Akaji hasn't hit the ground yet, but he believes the ball won't hit it. Moreover, he also believes that this ball will definitely belong to Xiangbei. Because his teammate is the king of Kanagawa rebounds. Sakuragi. Takashi Akaji roared again. Then there was a pop sound in my ears. Sure enough, it didn't hit. Hanagata also hurriedly shouted. Rebound. Under the basket, Sakuragi Hanamichi opened his arms and struggled to jam Takano. Nagano is stuck diagonally in front of Sakuragi. At this time, Sakuragi seemed to be ignited by Akaji's trust. Only basketballs in sight. Ah. Sakuragi Hanamichi let out the same roar as Akaji and jumped up with all his strength between the two. Syllable. The first blow is to light the basketball in the middle of the human slit. After all, Takano Nagano occupies the height advantage, and the two do not give in to each other. Syllable. In the second hit, Sakuragi took the lead with his super bounce speed. Be born. Under the rebounds is my world. In the astonished gazes of Takano and Nagano, Sakuragi Hanamichi jumped for the third time in a row. Finally pocket this precious rebound. Threw the ball directly into the front court on the way to the ground. Because he believes that Bai Ze will definitely get it. The basketball flew to the front court at high speed, and Shirasawa, Miyagi, Fujima, and Hasegawa rushed together. The joint operation of Akaji and Sakuragi caused the bench in Xiangbei to explode. Rush, Xiaobai. Bai Ze jumped up first on the march, and successfully received the basketball with absolute height, and the strength of Sakuragi's pass made Bai Ze's hands a little numb. This jump allowed Fujima and Hasegawa to grab the time to return to defense. Fujima volleys Shirasawa, and Hasegawa follows Miyagi. Shirasawa faced Fujima without delay, and directly passed back to perfectly transfer the ball to Miyagi's hands. As soon as Miyagi received the ball, he leaned over, full of horsepower, and forced his way past Hasegawa by speed. Then he threw the ball out. Bai Ze, who ran to the paint area, jumped up. Fujijin behind him can only be out of reach. Catch the ball with one arm, catch the basket empty. Bang! With the sound of the basket, Bai Ze landed smoothly. The fans feasted their eyes and cheered. Xiangbei's bench was even more deeply touched, which is the masterpiece of Xiangbei's team's efforts. Mu Twilight's already excited eyes had tears in her eyes. Because Akaji's awakening is not about him personally, but about the team. He gave his back completely to his teammates. Fighting not alone again. He only needs to do what is in front of him, and the rest of his own teammates share it. And teammates trust each other too. This is chemistry. Akaji, you have finally come this far with the problem child legion. When you twist into a rope, you are the strongest. Mu Twilight's tearful sigh also resonated with other teammates. Coach Anze nodded with a smile. It's been 2 years of hard work, Akaji. This sentence may seem to have no theme, but he represents a lot. On the field, Takashi Akaji held Sakuragi's head, and his domineering spirit had completely recovered. Well done, rebounding king. Akaji actually evoked a smile. Sakuragi Hanamichi smiled confidently. Of course, gorilla, I'm a genius. Akaji Takashi snorted softly, and his arms shook immediately. Come on. Xiangyang. This roar is full of spirit. Shigeru Ueda in the audience sighed with emotion. Akaji has finally found a teammate he can trust, and the way he plays may change as a result. I didn't expect this match to become Akaji's trial, and I'm afraid I won't have the advantage after Hanagata. Yusumi also nodded gratifyingly. He was pleased that Akagi represented the traditional stake center, and this battle did not let Hanagata defeat him. He and Akagi will also be true interior overlords. And although the two of them have been fighting for 3 years, they are actually friends and enemies, but no one will admit it. Xiangyang reorganized the attack. Fujima has already felt that 983 has arrived at a bad time. Since the beginning, he has always insisted on letting Bai Ze attack alone. But Bai Ze's firepower was already beyond his imagination. So far, he has scored 24 points in a row, and he is getting hotter and hotter. Thanks to Xiangyang's ability to suppress Xiangbei on the offensive end, Fujizhen believes that as long as he holds on for a few more rounds, Xiangbei will completely collapse. At that time, Bai Ze's mentality will be affected to some extent, and even if it is not affected, his physical strength will not be able to support him to fight like this. But at this critical moment, Xiangbei seemed to have awakened. Everyone feels alive again. This is undoubtedly the last thing Fujima wants to see. The next game is going to be full of variables. At the moment when Fujizhen's spirit was distracted, Bai Ze seized the opportunity and suddenly leaned over to make a gambling-style steal. A handful of tangents on the ball. Fuji's heart tightened, and his reaction was fast, and he jumped directly to the basketball that was cut out. This fish jumped and finally caught up with Bai Ze. Threw the ball out. At the same time, he also slapped himself on the ground. He paid the price of pain for his distraction this time. The ball was taken by Nagano, and there was no danger, and it was assigned to the inside flower. Hanagata turned his back to Akagi, and Nagano repeated his old trick, rushing up to the first two to make hand-to-hand passes. It's just that this time, when Hanagata turned around again and pretended to shoot, Akagi didn't move. This time he calmed down and made the right judgment. Then he turned sideways and met Nagano, who got up. Episode 108, King Kong number 2. Xiangyang changes the mode. Nagano, who was getting up to attack the frame, suddenly felt a chill on his body. I saw Akagi's big hand stretched out to cover the sky. Boom. Akagi blocked Nagano's dunk with his left hand. In just one moment, the advantage of power was shown, and the basketball was filmed. Appeared. Captain Akagi's fly slap hot pot. The crowd on the bench shouted excitedly. But then something happened on the field. The ball is flying into Kagata's hand. Let the mentality of the bench turn 180 degrees. Hanagata gets the ball and hits it high and throws it with one hand. At this moment, a red hair suddenly appeared in front of him. Under the rebounds is my world. Sakuragi Hanamichi jumped up and straightened her arms, snapping. Gave Hanagata a spicy hot pot. Sakuragi. So trusted. King Kong 2 under the basket. Our Twin Towers combination is unbreakable. Xiangyang is also a must-fight for the ball, and the basketball Hasegawa, who was fanned out, took it off again with his height advantage. As soon as he landed, a figure appeared like a ghost. Be careful. Fujima shouted a reminder. But it's too late. Although Miyagi is small, his strength is extraordinary. The hand is like a knife, a chop. Take possession of the ball directly. It was distributed to Bai Ze in the rushing attack. Shirasawa received the ball and continued to advance, followed by Fujima. Xiangyang was blocked on the offensive end 3 times in a row in one round, which had a great impact on the morale of the team. Fuji is about to stop Bai Ze even if he fouls. The two went all the way into the paint area. Fujizhen closely watched Bai Ze's every move, seeing that he was about to reach the basket. Fujizhen saw the timing and shot. This step, Fujizhen is extremely accurate, he has absolute certainty that he can cut the ball. Just when his hand was about to touch the ball, Bai Ze's hand suddenly changed, and the big hand completely grasped the basketball at that moment, followed the direction where Fujima chopped it, and pushed the ball out. Fuji was really shocked. He was also a top point guard, he didn't even have to look at it to guess the path of the ball. Bottom corner, Mitsui Sho. Mitsui was arguably fruitless in the first 10 minutes of the first half. As the outer heavy artillery of Xiangbei, it was taken extra care of by those giants at both ends of the offensive and defensive ends. The only thing I do is to consume my energy all the time. Coach Anze is right, playing with Xiangyang requires at least twice as much physical fitness. Compared to others, Mitsui sweats significantly more. This conversion was the first time he completely got out of control in the first half. Catch the ball, get up. Finally, everyone saw the picturesque shooting action again. Swish. 3-pointer scored. After scoring the goal, Mitsui took a hard breath of air and raised his finger to Shirasawa. 2718. Xiangbei took the biggest lead so far. Fujizhen wiped the sweat from his face, he was consuming Bai Ze at both ends of the attack and defense. Especially on the defensive end, it is necessary to have physical contact with Bai Ze. The bodies of the two are not at the same level at all, and his body is a little sore when they fight. Looking up at his teammates, they were all sweating after these 2 rounds. Fujima knew that with their physical strength, it would not be the case at all. It is more from the psychological level, derived from the defensive pressure of Xiangbei in these 2 rounds. No matter what the reason, the state of the Shenyang players at this time has dropped sharply, and the consequences of this fight are unimaginable, and Fujima immediately switched to the identity of the head coach and called a timeout. Time was paused and both sides returned to the bench. Xiangbei's offensive frenzy, which was about to be launched, could only be put on hold. Let the audience inevitably have some regrets. Fujima's gaze swept over his teammates sitting on the bench in front of him. Most of them are silent, as well as self-blame and chagrin. Can't you beat Xiangbei? Fujima asked flatly. A word pierced the hearts of the players. Shoyo is different from Mayuradai. Mayuradai just thinks highly of himself, shouting a slogan to defeat Hainan and thinking that he is really a strong team, and Xiangyang is the team closest to Hainan. Especially last year, if there had been no chaos within the team, perhaps the king of Kanagawa would have changed hands long ago. Of course, this probability is not large. But that's really what a lot of people think. It is also because Hainan's rule period is too long, and it is a little hatred. Therefore, Xiangyang's goal can only be Hainan. Now Fujijin asked such a sentence, which is obviously not sure of their strength. All their efforts in the past 3 years have come to naught. Hanagata took off her glasses in anger. Xiangbei is not qualified enough. The other teammates also raised their heads with empathy, their eyes showing anger. Their anger is naturally not directed at Fujijin, but at Xiangbei. Fujima nodded firmly. This momentum is right, this is the momentum that we Xiangyang should have. Xiangbei may cause us difficulties, but it will definitely not defeat us. Because we are Xiangyang. Fuji's encouragement rekindled the fighting spirit of the players. Finally, he gave his teammates another shot in the arm to bring the momentum to the top. Do a good job of blocking, I want the real game to start. Fuji really means that he's going to start. Players from both sides are back on the field. Xiangyang fans banged the water bottle, cheering for the team. They never believe that the long night is approaching. After the pause, it seems that Xiangyang's morale is good, and the same is true here in Xiangbei. It feels like the best of both teams now. Ida thought about it. Compared with these, Tianfeng Shigeru is more recognized by Fujima. It looks like Fujima played a big role in this pause. With Fuji's ability, he can shine as a player and as a coach. But it's a pity that you can't have both. Xiangyang's civil strife in the past 2 years has delayed him. On the field, Fujima pushed forward with the ball, and after midfielder Shirasawa began to gradually press. Fujima lowered his center of gravity, gradually increased the pace of dribbling, and kept changing directions in front of his body to find opportunities. At the same time, the rest of Xiangyang also moved. Nagano made a no-ball cover at the free throw line, freeing Hasegawa. In terms of cover quality, Xiangyang is definitely the first class. The 4 elders are tall and wide, and one block is as tight as a wall. After the liberation of Hasegawa, he immediately ran to the top of the arc. At the same time, Fujima pulled the ball up, and his shoulders shook to make a big change of direction breakthrough. He knew that it was not so easy to completely get rid of Shirasawa, and he was waiting for Hasegawa's cover. Bang! Bai Ze moved sideways and hit Hasegawa's body. Rao Hasegawa had already tensed his body, but this still made his face tighten. Fujima also smoothly pulled out of space with this big change. Raise your hand on the 3-point line. Fujima is not tall, but his scoring ability is particularly strong. 1 point is due to his left-handedness, and another point is his shooting speed. Just like this ball, Mitsui Sho, who was defensive, had almost run into place, but when he reached out, the ball had already flown into the air. This ball announced that Xiangyang changed the mode, hook. Episode 109, Exchange Style, Fujima Alexander. Swish. Fujima's three-pointer rises and falls. 27-21. In this critical period, Xiangyang continued his life. Fujijin began to take over the attack. It seems that Xiangbei has left him helpless. Ashin said again. The pastoral smiled heartily. The next game is interesting. The 2 teams are afraid to exchange plays. Exchange? What do you mean? Kyoto Nobunaga looked at him puzzled. You'll know it when you see it. Xiangbei attacked. Shirasawa controlled the ball, Takashi Akagi competed for a favorable position under the basket, and Mitsui Sho walked around the 3-point line waiting for an opportunity. Miyagi and Sakuragi Hanamichi are interspersed with running positions, disrupting the defense in search of opportunities. Xiangbei is like a malfunctioning machine, repaired for 10 minutes, and now it has finally started. Fujima curved top, single-sided white water. The whole person looks aggressive. Bai Ze adjusted the rhythm of the dribbling, and the tall height made the center of gravity extremely low, so that Fuji could not see any chance of sneak attack. Suddenly, Shirasawa started. The continuous left and right shaking of the pedal made Fujijin unable to figure out the route, and his body could not bear it, so he could only keep retreating. So, Bai Ze accelerated and pressed Fujijin to kill inside. When he reached the free throw line, he braked his front foot and 337 jerked his crotch back. Fujima lost his defensive position as a result, and Takano immediately moved towards the paint area. Xiangyang is already about to rise up, and he must not let Bai Ze be so unscrupulous again. It was at this moment of change of formation that Bai Ze pulled back the basketball to his right hand, and then swung the ball out like a water drift. The basketball hit Takano's feet, bounced up, and reached the hands of Sakuragi Hanamichi, who was traveling on the bottom line. The next moment, Sakuragi Hanamichi stood up. Pick up a basketball with one arm and smash it into the basket. Rumble. Sakuragi Hanamichi's dunk gave Shinobi the first point outside of Shirasawa. Takano stared back at Sakuragi indignantly, and Sakuragi Hanamichi smiled brightly. Look at what, do you think a small character like you can prevent a genius? Fujima is very calm. Don't care, prepare to attack. On the offensive end, Xiangyang maintained the strategy of focusing on Fuji's end. Hasegawa and Nagano tried to block Fujima, causing Shirasawa to be delayed all the way. In the end, Fujima crossed the free throw line and faced Sakuragi Hanamichi's block throw. The exclusive scoring method of small fights, even if Sakuragi Hanamichi has jumped to the top, he can only complain in annoyance. Turning around, Bai Ze increased the tempo of his attack. Miyagi continued to accelerate within the three-point line, disrupting Xiangyang's defensive center of gravity. Bai Ze saw the opportunity to wipe Fujijin straight to the basket. At the same time, Takashi Akiji turned around and shook a shot outside the 3-second zone, leading Hanagata by half a position. Running to the basket to the ball, this point is completely out of his mind. Bang! Takashi Akiji's hands clasped angrily, making the flower shape beside him dim. In the stands, Shinsoi Kairo smiled and said, "You see, Kyoto, this is the exchange play that Amu said." Through the previous rounds, Xiangbei has completely opened, plus Bai Ze's attack without sparing any room, so that Xiangyang's defense line has begun to take care of one or the other. And Xiangyang is now a little the offensive end, and needs Fujijin's personal attack to open up the situation, so as to lead the defense line in northern Xiangbei. The two teams have completely swapped their styles of play. Kyoto Nobunaga closed his eyes and realized, to put it simply, Shirasawa and Fujima exchanged, Shirasawa became a passer, and Fujima became the main attacker. Shinsoi Kairo nodded with a smile. Yes, both teams have been constantly adjusted, and they have returned to the most familiar mode. So the game is actually starting at this stage. The most important point of Xiangyang's strength is Fujijin's personal attack power. Last year, they relied on Fuji to play all the way to the top 16 in the country. Facing Toyodama High School in the round of 16, Fujima left the field injured in the 11th minute of the first half. But in these 11 minutes, Fujima cut 20 points, crazy. In terms of scoring power, Fujima is definitely the top. When Fujijin took over the offensive power, it was naturally Xiangyang's most familiar and strongest mode. Kyoto Nobunaga sighed boredly. Then if you want to say so, Fujijin would have fought like this earlier, and it is estimated that he would have sent Xiangbei home a long time ago. I'll just say, that's just the case in Xiangbei. Mushin glared at him. Superficial. Fujima didn't attack before, partly because his teammates were in good shape, which is also his duty as a point guard and coach. As long as he can score, everyone has the same. And it's much easier to open a team than to attack individually. On the other hand, it's Bai Ze. Bai Ze has put a lot of pressure on him at both ends of the offensive and defensive ends, and you can refer to Fujima and me for this. Kyoto Nobunaga pouted and muttered, "Cut, I also brought myself out invisibly, and AMU really knows how to talk." As soon as the words fell, he was immediately greeted by Mushin's icy gaze. Kyoto immediately covered his mouth. What the captain said makes sense. As they analyzed. On the field, the two teams began to attack and defend according to a familiar pattern. On Xiangyang's side, Fujijin suddenly shoots outside, and occasionally seizes the opportunity to score points to his teammates and tries his best to bring the team alive. Xiangbei is Bai Ze's heavy pass button, and all kinds of passes that make the audience exclaim are endless. At the same time, the personal strong attack did not fall, so that Xiangyang's defense line was lost one after the other. From the scene, both sides have their own highlights. But the score was 54-44. Xiangyang has fallen behind in double digits. There are 27 seconds left until the end of the first half. Each side theoretically has a chance to make a final attack. The reason why it is called theoretical is because it is Xiangyang's ball at this time. Fujima controls the ball in his hand and keeps watching the time. Apparently he wants to make the most of his 24-second offensive time. Leave Xiangbei between 2 seconds and 3 seconds so that they cannot form a final attack. Bai Ze was also not in a hurry and stood in front of Fuji Zhen, observing his movements. Seeing that the attack time was about to run out, Fujima finally started. After dribbling the crotch, he used cover again to avoid Bai Ze. Pull out a step and prepare for a straight 3-point shot. But Bai Ze turned around this time and bypassed the cover, taking a step and stretching out his long arm. As Fujima jumped up and made a shot, his finger hit the basketball. Fujima's hand was empty, and the basketball fell off. Bai Ze had 5 seconds left to catch the ball. Rush all the way to the front. Fujima turned around and chased, and the two started a chase battle on the field. Behind him are teammates from both sides who were struggling to follow up. In the eyes of all the people in the audience, Bai Ze's quick attack on one-sided Fujizan must be about to fight. Fuji's true defense doesn't pose much of a threat to him. But in these last 2 seconds, Bai Ze, who killed the inside, did not return, and directly held the ball and shook it and passed the ball behind him. This spread surprised everyone. The basketball runs straight through the following troops. Flew to the hands of Mitsui Sho, who fell at the end. At the last second, Mitsui Sho took a step outside the 3-point line to catch the ball and shoot. Although the movement was still the same, Mitsui jumped significantly lower than usual, and after landing, he kept following the movement, panting heavily. Keep an eye on the direction of the basket. Episode 110, The Vanishing Mitsui Sho. The basketball flies over the heads of everyone on the court. Fujizan couldn't help but sigh how crazy Bai Ze was. He didn't think he could prevent Bai Ze's last attack. Obviously 2 points were within reach. But Bai Ze has to choose a 3-point shot with a larger score. I don't know if he is trying to widen the score difference or show off this extreme operation. In short, he is half successful, and the next thing is to see if Mitsui can score this goal quickly. Anyway, judging from the state of Mitsui, I'm afraid it's enough. Throughout the first half, Xiangbei's worst performance was undoubtedly Mitsui Sho. There were only 6 points in total, which is definitely not his normal level. Especially in the second half of the period, the physical fitness has shown a warning light. Xiangyang's consumption of him is too great. Especially number 6 Hasegawa, Mitsui wondered if the two had some personal feud. All kinds of chasing, all kinds of physical contact. Hasegawa alone consumes a lot of Mitsui's physical energy. So much so that in this last defensive counterattack, he fell to last place, and Akagi ran faster than him. However, Mitsui also got this unguarded shot. The basketball hit the front of the basket and bounced up. Obviously not enough shooting force. The referee has already blown the whistle for half the game, and there is no need to scramble for rebounds. Everyone continued to stare at the bouncing basketball. It was another time, but this time the basketball fell into the basket with a weak spin. The number on the scoreboard changed immediately, 57-44. Mitsui lived up to Shirasawa's trust and scored a half-court 3-pointer. In the audience, Xiangbei fans also began the final carnival of the first half. Takuya Horita stepped on a stool, holding a loudspeaker, and yelled for his brother with all his strength. Mitsui! Mitsui! The teammates also walked to Mitsui's side, and Sakuragi Hanamichi patted him excitedly. Not bad, mistress. This beat made Mitsui suddenly stagger on his feet. It can be seen that his body is already overloaded, but his face is still full of confidence. Of course, it's always at its best. At halftime, both teams returned to their respective dressing rooms. Xiangbei led by 13 points at halftime, which really exceeded many expectations. Even those who thought that Xiangbei would win mostly thought that the game would be extremely anxious. There is a high probability that the winner will be divided in the final rounds. These 13 points may not seem like much, but they are especially important in the dialogue between the strong teams. Just like the goal that Fujima almost missed in the first half, it is the epitome of this game. Strong dialogue, the slightest inattention, can cost you. If you look at it this way, 13 points can make a big difference. The atmosphere in the dressing room of the two teams is also very different. Although Xiangyang does not let morale down, he is definitely not happy. The game was played as it is now completely beyond their control. For the word victory, there is no longer the absolute confidence that it was at the beginning. Fujima performed his duties as a head coach as usual and gave a simple review of the first half of the game. but he took more responsibility on himself. If you don't engage in any psychological tactics in the opening stage, go straight to the field and start playing. Maybe the format of the competition will also change. After all, Xiangbei was still in a state of relative panic at that time, but if you think about it, I'm afraid Bai Ze won't let them succeed easily. Fujima already regarded Shirasawa as a player of the same level as him in his heart. Not only technology, but also dominance, judgment, and other aspects. This is another fierce rival he has encountered after Mushini. It may even be a little higher than Mushinichi's level, which is Fujima's verdict after the first half. In the second half, he had to use all his strength to fight Bai Ze. Lead Xiangyang to turn defeat into victory. Finally, Fujijin summed up a sentence: Xiangbei is a team with championship strength, we must go all out. This affirmation of Xiangbei is not only him. All Xiangyang teammates also thought so. Without a desperate fight, the second half will turn into the final 20 minutes of their third graders in the county game. Compared with Xiangyang, the Xiangbei side is completely different. After the first half of the game, they have broken the uneasiness in their hearts. I recognize the fact that Xiangbei is a top team. Xiangyang or Hainan. Everyone is at the same level. Who is strong and who is weak will really spell out the answer. Everyone in the dressing room was full of fighting spirit. Akaji's dark circles seemed to have miraculously disappeared. The biggest contributor is, of course, Bai Ze, who scored 31 points and 7 assists in the first half. Among them, 24 points were won by one person in the opening stage. The spiritual pillar of Xiangbei has unknowingly become Bai Ze. Although he will not roar like Akaji, his way is more direct and effective. Shirasawa made everyone feel grounded, including Takashi Akaji. Xiaobai, the first half was hard, how is your physical fitness? Twilight greeted worriedly. Now the top priority in Xiangbei is Bai Ze's physical fitness. It was crazy to play like that in the first half. If anyone has the most physical energy consumption in the first half, it must be Bai Ze. The second half will be the decisive moment for both sides, and if Bai Ze's physical fitness declines, it will be a big trouble. When Twilight asked this, she was already ready to appear. He vowed to do his best on the field and at least buy Bai Ze an extra 5 minutes of rest. However, Bai Ze looked relaxed like a nobody. It's okay, this is where it goes. Mu Twilight listened without a twitch from the corner of his mouth, and sincerely extended his thumb. Bull. I'm worried about it, I forgot a few of you guys. The few physical monsters that Twilight refers to are Shirasawa, Miyagi, and Sakuragi Hanamichi. The beautiful picture of these three people being punished by Akaji for being late that time is still vividly remembered. Speaking of this, Twilight suddenly remembered another problem child, Mitsui Sho. It feels like Mitsui is invisible today, and there has been no movement in the first half except for the last 3 points of the whistle. The sense of presence is so low that people ignore his existence. You know, Mitsui until he played Shoyo, but he was the team's number 2 scorer. And the average score per game is only 2 points lower than Bai Ze. Such a big killer is indeed too abnormal today. However, at this time, Twilight looked around and did not see the shadow of Mitsui Sho. Hey? Did you see Mitsui? After Twilight asked, the teammates also realized that Mitsui was really not there. Only Miyagi said vaguely, that guy doesn't seem to have returned to the dressing room. I remember before he came in, he seemed to say go buy water. Sakuragi Hanamichi leaned over with a deflated face. You heard it again. Miyagi smiled. Just finished pulling out your poop yesterday. Door.